I grew up, I was born in London, Ontario, and my parents, we lived there for till I was about 8, and then we moved to Forest, Sarnia area, which is near Grand Bend. Both my parents are teachers. They're both very strict, well, they were at that time very strict Catholics, and it was myself and my 2 younger brothers. We moved a couple of times, but mainly stayed in that Sarnia area. Grew up on the beach. It was a beautiful area. My childhood was very, really good, very normal, very typical. You know, both parents in the house. When I was younger, it definitely seemed really great. My brothers and I got along as much as brothers and sisters get along. We had a lot of fun. I had a big family. So my dad's from a big family, and my mom also has a big family. So I was always very close with all my cousins, and we spent lots of time at cottages or the grandparents' pool, and they were sort of an extended brother and sisters. We were together that much. But yeah, everything was, and my mom taught at the school I went to, which was great until I started to get older and a little more rebellious. And then especially when it came to high school, and my dad was teaching at the local high school, a different one than I went to, but during my childhood was pretty typical, pretty normal. We went to church every Sunday. There was a lot of guilt, a lot of this is the way, there was one way to act, and there was a right way and there was a wrong way to do things. And as I got older and started to really fight against those reins, I think because they were so tight, I might have fought even a little harder. There ended up being a lot of complications, and my teenage years were not wonderful with my parents, and it's taken many years to come to a place where we can spend time together and just respect each other for who we are and be compassionate to each other for who we are, and just allow that to be a very kind of surface relationship. Yeah, I've sometimes go back and forth between, was it that I started rebelling? My dad became very abusive towards me, physically abusive. But from what it's all kind of fuzzy, right? Things come up and they go. I had basically not repressed it, because I repressed the emotional response to it for a long time until fairly recently. But, when I was very sexually aware and interested very young, and was attracting the attention of lots of people. And I think that really stressed and scared from what I don't know what he saw, but that's what he saw. I lost my virginity in grade 8. And then when I went to high school, my first day of high school, I was so excited to have some sort of freedom. And so I was dropped acid on my first day of high school. It was the first drug I'd ever done, and partied with everybody and got in with all the fun people, or the wrong crowd, whatever, but all the people that were having the most fun, and just sort of went from there. I always maintained straight A's. I was an honor roll student. All the teachers loved me. I was able to keep that balance for myself, and kept thinking to my parents, why can't you just let me have some freedom here? Because look at how great I'm doing in everything else. I'm on the debate team, for crying out loud, right? But yeah, I'm partying my arse off the rest of the time. And my family, there was a lot of pressure. I was the firstborn of 16 grandkids. Firstborn on both sides, of another 16 grandkids, and I was the golden child, and I was told I was going, oh, she's so pretty, she's going to, be with the captain of the football team, and she's going to be the anchor for CNN, and all this pressure constantly was that she has to maintain these really good grades, be a writer, make all of those things happen. So even though I liked to party, I knew there was a line that I couldn't cross. So, and I was afraid of drugs that would be addictive, because I also knew that, especially as I started to have, a lot of sex with random people, and felt a lot of shame, and then my dad's beating the crap out of me on a regular basis, and my mom is being a raving lunatic, blaming it on me, and all these things, that I was escaping with drugs a lot and partying, and I knew that if I went too far, I'd have a problem. So I was very sexually active from a very young age, had a very, very, very high libido. I just always wanted to have sex. I love having sex. It's wonderful. It's I used it for everything. I used it to control people. I used it to make myself feel good about myself. I used it because it feels good. I used it to escape. I used it to hurt myself. I used sex for everything you can possibly imagine. But I also had that, like, I love the hunt. I love that first moment. I love that, oh my gosh, you're gonna do this. Like, and I always was into that from a very young age. So I lost my virginity at like grade 8, lost it. I handed it. It's not like somebody stole it from me. I happily gave it away in grade 8 and then continued from then on. And I had multiple sexual partners all through high school, and I would encourage other people to join in even in high school. So I'm pretty much the town that I come from. I don't talk to anybody there anymore, but they often I'll talk to the odd person. They're like, I was at the bar the other night, and somebody's like, what the hell happened to Kate Waugh? Like, do you remember that night? Threesomes and orgies and all that kind of stuff. I was like, everybody get naked, let's do some drugs and let's have sex. So that was how I lived. Then I had a terrible first marriage, was desperate to have children, married my next marriage was a very, very safe, vanilla, lovely human being. And I lived under that thumb for a long time. And then when I couldn't take it anymore and we divorced, I went back to being as wild as humanly possible, which is then when I learned about all these wonderful sex clubs out there and I'm trying to think how I first met Ryan and Laura. I think I met them at a sex club. So I was going to Oasis and X in Mississauga and going to those kinds of places and just in my glory. Like the more attention, the more people, the more anything. And when I'm having sex, I'm very lost in it. Like I give myself completely to that. And I've studied Tantra since, so I know how to harness it and what that is and why that happens for me. But I orgasm very easily and often, and it's wonderful. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that all the time? So then, once I started going to the sex clubs, I met a couple that they run and hold orgies and sex parties all the time. And we became very close, and so then I go to their parties, mainly their parties. I get invited now to some private events because I'm a star. Yeah.
Okay. What is the first time you went to those kind of party or club?
The first time I went was to Oasis, and was with a boyfriend at the time, and he said, have you ever, you're a freak, have you ever been to this club? And I was like, no, this sounds amazing.
Tell me the detail about the first time.
Okay, so we walk in, and as soon as you walk in, you go down these deep, dark, grimy stairs, which is amazing, and then you pay your $100, sign all your waivers, and you walk in, and as soon as you walk through the doors, I mean, even the people taking your waivers are just in lingerie or, like most of their clothes are off. As soon as you get into the doors, there's just naked people everywhere having some drinks, dancing, and there's people in lingerie and outfits and all these things. Then we walk up the stairs to where the locker room is. So then, we take our clothes off and off we go into, it's a house basically, right, with a series of rooms. And in each room there's people having sex. And I just was like a kid in a candy store. And the first room we go into, it's set up like a dungeon, and there's one person doing a shibari show in the corner. Somebody else is strapped to something being whipped, there's in the next room adjacent, there's a whole audience of people, and they're watching an instructional sex show from somebody else. And then every other room is like a theme room, either like a cut open VW bus that you can have sex in, or there's just, chairs in a room, so you're all having sex, and there's just walls of condoms and lube and drinks and people walking around making sure that everybody's wearing a condom. Okay. Then there's a rooftop pool. I made the mistake of going into the pool first because I thought, oh, this will be cool and welcoming. You don't go in the pool ever. You'll get a fungal infection. It's disgusting. Don't ever go in the pools, which is like a number one sex club rule, which a newbie doesn't know. And I was in there with my partner, and we're making out, and we're looking at everything, and I'm like, I can't wait to get into everything else. And this beautiful, like 22-year-old Brazilian woman walks into the pool and comes over to us, and I was just in heaven. I love women as much as I love men. And so then we ended up, you know, I think we just ended up all kissing and touching each other and fondling each other, and then you stop. But what I like about it is you always just stop and you talk for a while. So, hey, where are you from? You know, what are you up to? And what brings you here tonight? And she had been, she had a gay friend who wanted to come in. Generally they don't let gay men in. So she was like, I had to sort of sneak him in, and I wanted him to come. But this is my one night of freedom before I'm settling down with somebody. And so we just spent the rest of the night with her in every room, and then other people would join in, and yeah, it was just wonderful.
Tell me, what is the social stuff in there? How people approach you, or how
Each one is different. So Oasis, like, and I don't go to Oasis anymore because I find it's a lot, we call them tourists. So a lot of people it's their first time in somewhere, so they're kind of just watching. They're a little.
don't like newbies.
We don't like
Yes,
newbies.
okay.
Yeah. You know why? There's nothing wrong with newbies. I just don't have a lot of time for this kind of play in my life. So when I have it, I look for pros.
Yeah, you want them going there, you know what you want.
Yes.
You know how to social.
When I go to a party, we spend the first hours just like the house parties we go to. You spend the first several hours talking and getting to know each other. It's always great if there's some kind of sex show people are putting on. There'll be some professional shibari people in. We have a chef that comes that does tinctures for, getting people into an elevated mood. Then you do your then we do a consent talk about consent and what that means and how things will be playing out. If you're somebody hosting always says, if anybody's on any hard drugs, I need to know. I don't care, but I need to know what people are on in case anything happens. And then off you go. And then generally people start to break off. And there's always a big room set up in all the sex clubs. There's a big room for if you want to have a big sex orgy pile up. Then there's smaller rooms, private rooms. One of my favorite times was I was at this club called The X, and the front of The X is like a dance club. So we're out there dancing. There's this woman on the stripper pole. She's amazing. My partner's like, oh my gosh, I want her. Like, get her for me, because women will come for me. Women will come for women, right? And they feel more comfortable. So I was like, I'm really interested in spending some time with you. Can we go back to the back? And she's like, I have a guy here. And I was like, bring them all. I don't care. Let's go. And we go into the back and immediately get our clothes off. And as we're getting our clothes off, I'm chatting with some of the women in the room. And I said, oh, I've never squirted before. I've always wanted to be a squirter. And they're like, oh, lay down in the change room. We'll teach you how to do it. And we had this whole big session where they were teaching me how to do it. And then by the time I get out there, of course, now I'm like, it just becomes so primal for me. And I get so lost in it. And I'm just I get everything. I don't know, everything it just becomes about pleasure, like just hedonism, just pure hedonism and bodies and the smells and the feeling and the sounds. Like, I'm just into the whole thing completely. So the woman that was been teaching me how to squirt, she comes onto this bed. My partner is having sex now with the stripper that he wanted to be with, and she's. Did I just be really graphic? I guess I kind of am. Okay, so then she's sucking her partner's dick, but I was so engrossed in playing with this woman who just squirted so easily. I was like, it's like a magic button, and like everybody loves getting a woman off because sometimes it's difficult, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody picks me up. No, somebody came up behind me because I'm like ass out. Somebody comes up and they stick their fingers inside of me, and I squirted, and I was like, oh my God, I've been working on that today, and it's this big, beautiful black man, and he goes to pick me up, and my partner stops what he's doing, and he's like, whoa, you can't just take her. What's happening? He's like, no, I have like a group of people that I've been picking from the crowd. I want her to come to the crowd. She'll be fine. And my partner's like, you need to ask her. And I was like, yeah, you need to ask me. And he said, and I'm coming with her wherever she goes. And I was like, I'm definitely going wherever this beautiful man is going. And so then we went into a back room and played with all the, he's like a connoisseur. He's a lovely gentleman, and he just sort of goes to these sex clubs and he finds like, oh, you're interesting. And it's not about looks. It's about, and it's not about looks for any of us.
The vibe.
It's the vibe. It's the giving into it. Like, we get a lot of gorgeous, beautiful, sexy, amazing young women will, but it's all about a show for them. Not all of them. There are some, but it's, the ones that we all stay with and connect, and we have bonded, and we always seek each other out. We're the people that just are in it for all the right reasons, and just because it feels great, and I want to explore this, and I want to try this, and here's a fantasy, can I try, I want this, I want this fantasy, I want this fantasy. And we started doing theme parties for each other on each other's birthdays, where it's just about like, hey, what fantasy do you want to live out, and how can we make that happen for each other? So
Like, what kind of fantasy?
so like, my one girlfriend, she wanted to have, like most women, as many men as you can get with no women. And so we got her she just got as many guys as she could get. And so we've learned, though, we need another woman at least fluffing and keeping everything going. So we promised to be each other's fluffers, but yeah.
What is the most fun party you ever? What is the most fun fantasy party you ever been to?
I guess it's pieces of all of them. When I recently went through a breakup, and my partner and I had been swingers, and so we'd been to lots of parties, but he just wasn't a very respectful dude, and he rubbed people the wrong way, and he was too aggressive with the whole thing, and he was very I don't know how you can be, he was very disrespectful to me in the moment. Like, he was just so focused on, I don't know, like just having sex with a new woman, that he turned a lot of people off. So so I had been pulling back from a lot of the parties and a lot of the events because I just wasn't having the same kind of fun. It was just becoming too stressful. So we broke up, and I was having one of those, I need to go out and have some fun. I want to do something. And there was this guy that I had been talking to on one of the swinger apps, and for months ago. And I reached out and I said, listen, man, I don't really know you, but I just got invited. I've been invited to this private sex club in Toronto. There's going to be a shibari show. I really love shibari. I don't know if you're down for this, but it says in your bio that you're into this kind of stuff. How about we meet and I take you to the best party of your life, and I'll crash at your place and we'll figure it out. So we drove down to Toronto. I met him. He was, it was lovely. And I was like, okay, and we brought him to the party, and everybody was like, oh, at first when we were coming up, they said, it's a private show. And, but he, because I know everybody, and I know the organizers, and I know the people, and I'm a good time. So everybody's like, oh, you're with Kate, come on, this will be fun. And we took just a little bit of just a tiny bit, had a couple drinks, and he was magic at it. It was so nice to have somebody there, a partner there, who was obviously so into everything that was happening. Also like a kid in a candy store, but also so connected to me in terms, just like, oh, this is amazing, thank you. Like, and just the eye contact and the, oh my gosh, do you see that woman's breast? Like, oh, she's so hot. Let's like, can we go play with her? Or can we go do this? Can we go do that? And I brought him to, like, we're like seeing each other now, and we've gone to a couple parties together, and he's a wonderful partner for those. Yeah. So
based on the story, I just started thinking, do you feel sometimes you see a guy on the street or on the regular party, they dress up or seems like a decent, but once you take off your clothes, go to those kind of party, you show 100% you're decent or not, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Because there have been...
You cannot hide.
Yeah. And we don't. And that's what we were talking about at the last party, actually, that we were at, a bunch of us, that the friendships that I've made there are so real. Because, like the things that we've done to each other, right? Or we've seen done to each other, or we're doing in front of people. Like, it just... There's no bullshit. And there's so many people, we're so judged by so many people. We all have friends and family and everybody who has no idea what kinds of things we get up to. And it could be, your best friend in the whole world, but you would never tell them because they just couldn't understand it. So then you're so used to that when you're in this environment, you just tell everything. We share our deepest traumas, our deepest secrets, our deepest fantasies. They're just real beautiful bonds with people. And then there's people there that you're like, and they don't come back. We don't invite them back. Like you got too rough. you didn't get consent, or you just, there was something just off about you. You made some people feel uncomfortable. That's not what it's about, and they're not invited back. So there's a lot of there's a new younger crowd that's coming in. There's nothing wrong with consent. Consent is beautiful and it's loving. Some of us are just like, I'm just here. There's no rules. There's no boundaries. I'll tell you if something's not right. But to me, I need to be so free. So I've had people come and go, may I kiss you? And I'm like, yeah, do it. Like, I'll rebuke you if I don't want it. The conversation beforehand is like, turned me off. I'm starting to think I wanted to explore being dominated and what that would be, because I also feel like we've also all discussed this, that we've been at this, like I'm 47 years old, like I've been at this for a while, so you kind of have to keep adding to the spice, and you're always like, oh, what about this, and let me cross this line. So I was really interested in being dominated, and then at one of the parties there was a guy there, a young, big, strong guy who was like really into that. And so I was like, I've been wanting to try this. Like, I'm interested in what you're going to do. I'm consenting to this. Let's see what happens. And everybody left the room. And he was brutal. He physically hurt me. Just grabbing me, and he's a very abusive person, and we've learned since, and his eyes went like shark eyes. It wasn't a game. It wasn't fun. I had bruises all over me. And then, had to get myself out of the situation. So that was a definitely terrible moment. So I think, I was I was physically abused as a teenager. So I wonder if that's part of it. I've definitely questioned, why would I want that? But I've had now Dom experiences where you do get to a point when it's a proper dominating, and sometimes it can be done through extreme pleasure as well, which is amazing. But it's the whole submitting. And when you actually submit, it's one of the most intoxicating feelings, just a release. I've only been able to actually submit fully a couple of times, and I then sought that, was like a junkie for that for a while, trying to get somebody who could get me there, because I just automatically challenge back. It's just my MO. Or if I can challenge you back, then I'm not interested anymore, because then I'll dom you instead, but it is a true submission. I actually had a conversation, or I had a moment with a guy recently who wanted me. He's like, I want you to hit me. I want to see what this feels like. And I smacked him a couple times pretty hard, said some pretty nasty shit. and his face, he was just like a child, and his eyes welled up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm so sorry, did I go too far? You asked for it. And we was like, no, and he's like, that was a really weird but really neat feeling. I think I need to explore this some more. And I'm like, it's that submission, it's that moment, and it doesn't have to be through extreme pain. But I was like, we can explore this in different ways.
But sometimes I feel extremely pain give you extremely
I like
joy.
pain. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I do martial arts before. When I'm rolling with someone, I on purpose not defense. When you get hurt,
yeah.
But maybe the second day you feel migraine or
and that's not fun.
But
yeah,
at the moment, it's so good.
It's so good, and it's like women getting there. I like my nipples at certain times, right? There's definitely an element of pain. Being bitten is such a I love that feeling. I love the feeling of tattoos.
Yeah.
That pain of tattoos is really intoxicating to me. I'm covered in goosebumps. I'm getting off on that,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. When you talk about consent, sometimes without consent we make more joy, but sometimes if you ask too many questions about,
right?
Can I do this? Can I do that? You will ruin the stuff.
Yeah, because I also want to be surprised.
Yeah, that's why I'm very interested in how a newbie or even either, how do you know the rules?
And then so that's why
right?
That's why they do those consent talks. And generally during the consent talks, Ryan will be like, Kate doesn't care. I'm like, I don't care. Just do whatever you want to do. I'll tell you if I don't like it. Please don't ask.
So the consent talk is generally or to whoever you want to.
No, initially it's just everybody, let's say there's 20 people. Mm-hmm. Everybody comes together. It's the consent talk. There's this, make sure you're asking for consent. And then people navigate it themselves. There are just a few of us who are very adamant about just jump in. If I don't like it, I'll probably kindly position you out of the way or move you. I'm not going to do things I don't want to do. I'm far past that stage of my life. So it's not that, but I also am into just the sexy pileup of bodies, and I don't know what body or whose part or is here. That's my sweet spot.
I mean, do you think those kind of fetish will be also like drugs? Because
absolutely,
your hard stuff.
It's a high.
Yeah, once you go back to normal sex with your partner, you feel you don't have that kind of.
No, because it's just different. No, normal sex with a partner. Every kind of sex is beautiful. Making love is beautiful. Like slow, quiet is amazing. That's just another part of sex. It's just like. I mean, we don't do the same thing all day long. We seek different elements. So it's just a different element of sex. I have amazing fulfilled sexual relationships with single partners as well.
So you mean when you do this kind of fetish party won't ruin your regular partner?
No. Depending, I mean, unless there's jealousy involved, I mean, different levels. But in terms of like your sexual attraction to one person, no. I also... I seek out partners that are adventurous, that, like I said before, I've studied Tantra. Like I can give a lingam massage for an hour and a half on somebody, and nobody's having an orgasm, but I'm lost in that, and I can feel that sexual energy, and I can play with it, and I feel like an artist with my medium, and I love that. It doesn't have to be that craziness all the time, and that's just also not sustainable. I want all of it.
It's art.
It is art.
Yeah.
It is art. A lingam massage is art. Like once I learned how to do them from my mentor really well, and really getting into that energy and feeling that energy, like I believe in that strongly. I can tap into it. I do feel I have. There's a part of me that this is a part of me. This is who. The primal essence of who I am is a very strong sexual being, and sexual energy is. I mean, we know what it feels like. It's such a powerful force. So why not harness it, play with it, use it, take it in, don't just always release it out. And I want to have that pleasure in all parts of my life.
Yeah, as you already talked about the jealousy, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
When you go there, for example, you find a really beautiful man's body or physically, emotionally, and your partner know this guy is perfect.
Yeah.
Then how do you deal with that when you guys go back to? Do you guys talk about those?
Oh, we talk about it absolutely.
Okay.
I'm older, so there are women there. Like I don't have the same body I had at 25, right? And I don't want to, and that's also been part of the journey. There was a period when I started, my 40s, thinking, oh, I'm getting too old. Like I'm losing what makes me beautiful, what makes me powerful, what makes me attractive to other people. But because of this, I've also learned that, that's just one element of it, and who I am and what I bring to the table or to the bed and what kind of a person I become and how I share my energy and my gifts with people, that attracts everyone. And I don't spend so much time on looks in that respect. There are stunningly beautiful people there. There's something wrong in our society that says we're not supposed to look at a beautiful physical piece of art and then go, wow, like that guy is magic. Like he is beautiful. Like that is a specimen. And I can still turn to my partner and see him as a beautiful, amazing specimen because I know his whole package and the whole picture. That's just one pretty element. And I know that he feels the same for, and these are some of my current partners, but I had to work hard to find people that could navigate that without a lot of jealousy and insecurity. And then there's moments where you're like, oh my God, that bitch is so beautiful. I wish I looked like that. Like, right? So.
Yeah. Also, another. It's when you do this with a partner, open to each other 100%. That's very important.
And because of that, so when you're in a monogamous relationship, this is one of the things that's attracted me with polyamory. And I'm not going to do the whole selling polyamory because I'm still not 100% sure. I know that for me right now, this is where what works for me. Does that mean that that's, I want to do that forever? There are pangs of jealousy. There are people competing. There are people who don't understand how to not be competitive. You're not just dealing with everybody who's on this amazing elevated space. But what was the question again?
To 100% open to each other.
Oh yeah, but so then when you're into it though,
Yeah.
you're committed to communication because there should be that lines of communication in every type of relationship, but it's just right there on the table that, hey, we're going to explore this. We're going to talk about everything. And because I've had as many life experiences as I've had, I know that there's no point in not talking about it. There's no point in saying, a friend read me a text the other day that he got from a woman, and he was reading because like, ooh, listen, she had this really sexy thing. But I could read between the lines as a woman saying, she's very clearly telling you that she had this really sexy moment with somebody else, but it wasn't as good as you, and she misses you, and she loves you, and she's falling for you, and here's all the things that are happening. And I'm like, this doesn't feel as fun anymore, But then had I not talked about it with him, then that would just build resentment. That would just build jealousy. And instead we have this conversation where he's like, people fall in love with you all the time. Why is that a problem? That doesn't change who we are. And it's completely right. It doesn't change where we're at. And if it started to bother us, then we move on.
Have you ever find someone in the party or in this group you feels like not only want sex with them, you want to own them. You want to own this guy. You want to be involved with his
I used to do that more, and that's where I really did a lot of reading and a lot of work on attachment. I found that I was not at the parties. The partner that I had, I was really unhealthily attached to, and my self-worth, my direction, my everything was coming from this attachment. That's not something that I'm interested in. I don't believe people own people. I don't want anybody to ever think that they own me. I generally seek out people that are, pretty strong. Not that we don't all have a million things that we're falling apart around us sometimes, but we're pretty strong, pretty secure, pretty self-aware, or even just to know that they need to be more self-aware, or they have things to work on and are seeking an elevated existence.
So you don't believe there is the one standing there, so everyone have a beautiful part? I
used to really subscribe to that fantasy, and the more so we don't want to do the whole COVID shit, but when the pandemic hit, I was one of the people that was standing there going, I don't really understand what the hoopla is. Like, why is everybody freaking out? This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And and I was an English history major, Catholic school teacher. I'm like, pretty white bread and square in so many ways. But then things started to really unravel for me about, oh, wow, there's really a narrative being sold in all kinds of different parts of life. And one of them being this fairy tale fantasy, the Disney princess, the swept off your feet, I'm going to be looked after for the rest of my life. What purpose does that serve? Because most human beings are not finding that. Most human beings are spending their whole life trying to find it and then disappointed that they can't find it. Have you ever read any Paulo Coelho, like The Alchemist? He has this amazing book called Zahir, and it's all about love. And one of my favorite, it's not a direct quote, but one of my favorite quotes from it is that he says, the number one source of human suffering is that we try to tame love. Love is an unbridled, it's one of the biggest forces in the universe. It controls, it surrounds everything around us all day long. We're searching for love, we're seeking love, we're feeling love. So then we try to control it and box it and define it, and it doesn't work. And then we're all unhappy. So I'm not is there one person out there someday that I want to spend an extended period of time with? I also don't believe the mark of a good relationship is longevity. I believe that it's quality. I believe it's that connection, and that could be a one night stand or that could be 20 years. I'm not saying that someday there wouldn't be somebody that I choose to have that type of relationship with, but I don't know, and I don't pretend to have the answer to, is there a one? Should there be multiple ones? Are there 20 ones out there? Are there, I mean, look at all the different friendships we have. Look at all the different versions of ourselves that we are, and all the times we change and the different paths we take and the journey we're on. That can't just be one human being that sits there for the next 60 years and follows that exactly, because then somebody's not on their own path either.
It makes me tear.
No, sorry.
I love it. When the first time you guys you and your partner going to the party, do you guys set up a rule like we only hang out here, but we cannot leave my personal information to anyone? All here.
Like with a partner?
No, you and your partner. Do you guys say?
Yeah, it's
okay,
respectful, right? Like if he was to say, you know, like he would say to me, oh, I was really into Erica. Like I think she's really amazing. I would have a lot of fun with her. How would you feel if
okay,
I?
How would you feel?
How would you feel? Not can I or should I or it's how would you feel?
Okay.
And the thing is, when you find people who are open to not only being asked the question, but answering honestly and receiving the answer honestly. So how would you feel if I got Erica's number? And I could say, ugh, I don't know. That gives me some feels. Like I feel kind of uncomfortable. I'm just going to explore that for a little bit. But, you know, maybe go ahead and get her number because that's when we see her here. But can we talk some more about you messaging her? Generally, I'll be like, yeah, man, go get her number. It'll be a lot of fun. So...
But when things go into a point like Jessica invited him to a private party, you are not invited.
Yeah,
it feels like
I would be jealous.
Okay.
I would be.
Well, how do you deal with that?
I believe in when you have feelings that don't feel good. That's okay. That's life. We're human beings. We're not supposed to just feel happy, airy fairy all the time. So you lean into that emotion and follow it back. So. What is this feeling? Often we just have a feeling, we label it as jealousy, and then we blame somebody else for it. Well, jealousy is fear. And so what am I afraid of? And which part of me is afraid? What version of me? Is this the little girl that's afraid of not living up to people's standards? Is this the Kate right now who is sitting strong in her queendom, feeling like she can take on the world? And then it's my job to process it, not their job to process that.
Okay, you believe deal with the feeling, just bear with it. You don't set.
Well, and figure it out. Like
you don't set rules. Like okay, we go to party, we go together. We don't go in.
If it was to happen where I was jealous and unhappy often, and I wasn't able to work on it, and I wasn't able to, have those feelings abate, and I'm sitting there uncomfortable and anxious all the time, then I am obviously not okay with this type of a relationship.
Okay.
And that's for me to pull out of. Or see if that person is willing to make changes. And if they're like, oh, this is who I am and this is what I want, then it should be okay, well, like, we've had a beautiful time. It hurts. I love you. But our paths are going in different places. And I'm not going to put myself through anything icky for anybody. I mean, well, I'll go through icky feelings, but I don't know.
That sounds like a paradise. But so far, did you find anything is not comfortable in this kind of relationship or this kind of...
Yeah, so I have to be, like, if I'm making it sound like a paradise, when I was in this type of a lifestyle with my ex, it was a hell. It was pure hell. It was, he got off on lying. So even though we would be in an open relationship, I would be finding out from other people that he'd been sleeping with other women. And hooking up with them when he said he was going to do this, or he was at work, or something was happening. And then his argument would be, well, we're in an open relationship. But that's not a respectful relationship. And so then I was constantly feeling disrespected. I was constantly feeling like I was supposed to be catching him or finding things out. He was very manic and frantic about it all. It wasn't just, I'm on sometimes I'll peek at a nap, but I believe in meeting people naturally. I also believe that we only have so much time, and I've met some beautiful, wonderful people, and I'll naturally meet beautiful, wonderful people that I'm attracted to, and then let things unfold. I don't need to rush it and push it. But he was like just like a fiend, like just needed to have it all the time, and it would consume him constantly, texting all the time, on the phone all the time. I'd take a picture of him, a sexy picture of him, but then he'd have it so that he could send it to somebody else, and all the intimate moments were being sort of torn apart between us because it was all being used as fuel for something else. That was not okay. That was not fun. And I thought, okay, you know what? Actually, I don't want open relationships. I don't want to do this. Maybe I am seeking monogamy. Maybe there is no one out there, and I'm just supposed to be a crazy witch that lives in a barn by herself, and that's all I'm going to do, and I don't care. And then, having that time apart and having the time to have some clarity for myself, and then really feeling the urges. I like this, like the plumber came today, and we're friends. So I was like, let me thank you, and that's fine. I enjoy that. But I have a partner right now that is very respectful, and he's not like I have partners, but the person that I'm really exploring a lot of this with is very respectful, is very open to exploring all the feelings. So it's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah, one thing very important you talk about is doing this is the partner looking for fuels to fulfill this partner. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be led of the partnership getting better,
Absolutely.
not to fuel others.
Exactly.
Okay, that's very
exactly
important.
like we chat like and I know also this also ebbs and flows. So the one couple that all the couples that I know in this in the lifestyle that I've known for a long time have gone through massive ups and downs, a lot of times because they started with a lot of rules and a lot of boundaries and and then they each started to sort of balk at those, like, well, I want to do this, and maybe I do want to see this person on my own, and this. Then they break out of the rules, then they all go, oh my gosh, he's falling for this person, she's falling for this person. But again, in these types of relationships, you're so committed to exploring all the shittiness and all the good parts that you take the time and effort to do it. So I'm not saying that there won't be shitty parts that I'll go through again and be uncomfortable, but we tell each other our fantasies, but then it's like, okay, let's make that happen. Like, hey, Friday night, let's go into the city, and let's you're really interested in this. Okay, I'm gonna help you make that happen, and I'm excited to see you that excited.
Okay, the best part actually is always exploring.
Absolutely.
It's all with adventure. You don't know something unknown, right?
Yeah.
But the unknown part is the best part.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just like, they're adventurous people, right? Like, yeah. I go caving, I go mountain biking, I like that thrill in all parts of my life, and sex and people, and it's just, there's so much there.
Yeah. But have you ever experienced something you guys explored or break the rules, then not fixable, then when you guys cannot deal with each other, when you guys...
Yeah, when my partner just kept seeing other women, and it just became his primary focus, I was done with the whole thing.
If he say, okay, I'm sorry, I know it's wrong, so I want to be back.
If he actually stuck with that would have been amazing. But yes, that's... Okay. Yeah, so we tried many times to...
He went too far, right?
It just went too far. He used to joke that he was a perpetual line stepper, but he really was. And that's where he gets his thrill, is crossing boundaries. And I have boundaries. They're pretty amazing boundaries, I think, for in a relationship with somebody else. But even at that, and that's what all his friends, people would say, like, do you know what you get to do? Like, we're all dying to go out and do this and have the fun that you guys have. And everybody wants Kate to come to the party because it means she's going to get everybody's women's tops off, and we're going to, at least get to see some boobs. And like, we're like, you can do this all the time. Why are you... it just, again, depends on the person and what they're in it for. It's also, let's be honest, there's an ego there. And so when, the ego is something that we're all trying to not feed unnecessarily, but it is. Hedonism is a pleasure-seeking, ego-stroking, this feels good. It's kind of a base carnal experience. So you're going to touch on, I think, some darkness sometimes with that as well.
So
But you're
honest.
very open. Like as soon as I met you, like I don't talk like this to
Very
everybody.
sexual. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah. So
tractor.
okay. You,
I don't talk like this to. I mean, I like telling stories and it's fun, but you can tell you're not a judgmental, you're a very open
thank you.
person. And so I also feel like I'm pretty good, and you are also, I'm sure, very good at sensing energy in people,
Yeah.
right? And so there's an energy. It's a very comfortable, safe,
Yeah.
respectful energy, so then you can be very open.
We didn't dig into one individual party. So what is your
Well,
when
it's
you
because
look?
there's always moments. Like, and
Yeah.
I've had parties where I've been like, ugh, I hate this and I want to leave. Like, I hate everybody here and I'm
Okay.
not into it.
When you look back, which party pumped up? It's the best when you look back.
You know what I would say? It was one of the earlier parties that I went to.
Okay.
I feel like there are parts where I feel like it's so intimate to share things, but and again, it's an ego. It is. I can't pretend it's anything but ego. But there's this moment when I first started going to the parties and really started being open and just letting it all go and being myself, because I'm loud. I'm all over the place. I'm bouncing from here to there. I'm like, flip me upside down. Let's do this. Let's over here. Like, I just want to do all the things all at once. And initially, some of the women were very challenged by that, and they, would be like, "Oh my God, she's having an orgasm again," and I would be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But all the men were like, "Oh my God, this woman is just like this wonderful button to push, and you just keep pressing it, and new things keep happening." And the first couple parties that I went to, where I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to this unless I'm going to be myself, and everybody's just going to have to deal. And I could feel my energy feeding people around, and I could feel people getting more relaxed and then more themselves and more wild. And there was at one point there was a couple of people in the hot tub, and I go into the hot tub and turned it into this huge, amazing, wonderful orgy in the hot tub with so many people all watching, but all watching in like a, oh, this is so amazing, that's so beautiful, oh, look at that, oh my gosh, she's drowning her, oh, this is happening now. And that was one of my favorite parties. And then finishing that amazing hour long spectacular session, and then sitting there and smoking a cigarette with a bunch of women shooting the shit about like life and men, jealousy, and like, where'd you get your nails done, and like, anybody want to go mountain biking tomorrow, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once the party is done, maybe let's say it's just Sunday. So when you go home, so how do you feel?
Um, it, I feel for a long time that sexual energy is like running in me for a long time. And like I'll be in the grocery store and yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, just exuding that energy. Like, you have no idea, lady, what I just did yesterday, and I just feel very, very sexy, very in tune with nature and the universe, and like just everything just feels really lovely. It gives me a lot of energy, a lot of perspective. I feel like in some way, I mean, it's not a very grounding activity, but I feel more grounded and centered. But I think I've, as I explore it, I think it's because it's more my center, more who I am and I spent so long ashamed of my sexual energy and hating myself for my sexual energy and thinking there was something wrong with me, and having, people tell me there was something wrong with me, and being called a slut. Like, that's my favorite word now. Like, who doesn't love sluts? Sluts are great. And when you meet other women, there's not a lot of women that are able, and maybe there is, and if they're out there, please contact me. But there's other women that are just that free and open and enjoying themselves that happily. So it just feels great, even around my kids. Like, I'm feeling that we call it, my friends and I call it, that big dick energy. I don't feel ashamed for, I don't tell my kids. And I have friends who are very in the lifestyle, who are very open with their kids. Like, we're in a lifestyle, we're swingers, we're polyamorous, mom has a boyfriend, you know. And that's not something I think my kids are ready for. I'm very open with them sexually. They tell me when they, you know, first kissed a girl. They tell me if they've had sex. We have condoms in the drawer. They know they can ask me any questions. But I also, if they wanted to ask me about my life, I'm sure I would give them bits and pieces. But they don't ask. They don't need to know what's happening. Nobody wants to know that your mom was like swinging from the rafters Saturday night. So.
Yeah, I can understand why people think something wrong there, because they are afraid.
They're afraid. Everything is fear.
Yeah, like me ask so many questions. I want to assume something. Maybe there is a border. Up the border will be something wrong. But
like asking me questions?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no boundaries with me.
I ask so many questions already.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of hesitated to admit there is a paradise. But what if it's really a paradise?
With the right people, like,
yeah.
You know, spiritually, like I believe, like I don't care how you're spiritually or what path you're on or how you're looking to expand yourself, but if you're not on that, and you're not willing to question yourself and your own motives, if you're not willing to look at words like jealousy and go, that just means fear, you know, if you're not willing to put in that work and have those moments and that self-reflection, then it's not going to be a paradise. And you're just, and the attachment thing, like, people fall in love and people want, and people want to lock me down. They get really excited and enamored, and then they're like, you know, okay, but I want you for me, you know, you know, yes, we could have fun together, but like, don't you just want a man to look after you? Don't you just want me? And I don't. Not that no, I mean, it's not just those people. I don't, that's, you know, and then you feel uncomfortable, and I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm over not hurting somebody's feelings. I've learned how to be direct and respectful at the same time. And just like, that's not what I'm interested in right now. And not using words like right now. You have to be really careful, right? It's not what I'm not interested. Thank you so much. I'm very flattered. Go home to your wife, you know. But in a perfect world, wouldn't we all just be like, you have kids. You have more than one kid. Did loving a second kid take away from love from the first kid?
No.
Right? Like, there's no like boundary on that. And I have multiple friends because I can't just have one friend. They're not going to be all things to me. I love so many people. I have so many, not so many, I have a few lovers that I love. Like, I genuinely love them. And that doesn't mean that I want to move in with them and share the tax bills and all those kinds of things. But I genuinely love them and think they're beautiful people and want to see them happy and excelling and call on them for support when I'm having a hard day, and I think it's beautiful. I used to be so embarrassed. Like, I just, yeah, we just gotta be honest and real. It is like and I love it, and I like playing with it. I like having fun with it. I like when somebody looks at me and I can see it in their eyes, and I'm like, ooh, exciting. We're gonna have some fun, you know? And it's great. And yeah, it's not a bad thing. Something to be ashamed of or hide or diminish or anything.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for your story.
You're welcome.